Hello, everybody.
Hello, good afternoon.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you, Pedro.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm all good.
So still waiting for the others to join. Oh, here they
Good
are.
afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, Tarek.
How are you, Khaled? Very good to see you.
Good to see you. Really good to see you again.
Pedro, how are you?
Good. Finally, we made it.
Yes, we made it. We're here.
Right.
It's good to see you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tarek.
I think we will just be waiting for the three doctors that we have from, because I think Diogo is here online with us. So we're waiting for Dr. John, Dr. Salah from Washington, and Dr. Talal. And I think he's just joining us right now.
Yeah, so it's connecting now, Talal. Diogo is still muting his mic. All right.
So we'll give just a couple of minutes for the rest to join us. Diogo, can you hear us? Diogo.
Yes, I can. Hello,
Hi.
everyone.
Hi,
Hi,
Diego.
Diogo.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Dr. Talal, welcome all the way from Saudi Arabia.
Welcome, Tariq.
How are you today?
Very good. How is everyone?
Good,
Thank you
great.
very well. Thank you.
I'm
Dr.
in the middle of
Talal,
the conference, so hopefully the background is not noisy.
we can perfectly hear you. We're just giving a couple of extra minutes for our guests from the US to join us. Can you tell us a little bit about the conference that you're attending today? It seemed very interesting from what you said to me.
Yes, it is the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. It is like taking place annually in different countries. The last two congress were in 2018 in Istanbul, Turkey. 2019 it was on Manama, Bahrain, and then it was postponed for 2 years because of COVID. So now it is in Saudi Arabia. It is very big, huge, more than 200 countries participating. So it's a very huge event for 4 days.
Wow. What's so special about it so far?
Excuse me?
What has been so special about it so far?
I think
interesting
every
concept?
single thing is very interesting. It's a huge investments on startups. A few startups globally yesterday were awarded globally, but from the different VCs from Saudi Arabia is a huge investments on startups. Yesterday it's like more than $1 billion, I think, or so. And it's mixing the cultures with, especially, for example, people coming from all over the world for the first time. They talk with them to a Diriyah, where is the first like Saudi was created more than almost 300 years ago. So they were enjoying all the cultural night, and I think the event is even for myself as a Saudi is phenomenal.
Interesting. Professor Salah, welcome all the way from Washington. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good morning from Washington, or good afternoon, I guess.
Good morning and good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. I think we're just missing Dr. John Hayes. So in 1 minute, if he still didn't make it, we can start and kick off so we can save the time for the rest of the discussion that we have. But initially, I would like to thank you all for being part of this. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tariq Al-Hassan. I'm the director of the International Center for Culture and Innovation here in Portugal. Our center is concerned to research and study in depth more the subject of nation branding, and hopefully come up with new ideas, concepts, and communicate a more of competitive edge for countries and support them to further grow their nation brands. I would like to welcome you all. I'll start with Professor Salah Hassan from George Washington University. Professor Salah is a nation branding and place branding expert who has current and previous international assignments, including working with the US governments on both local and international assignments. We have Dr. Talal Al-Maghribi from Saudi Arabia. He's the president of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia Sports Marketing Association. He is also a nation branding enthusiast and an advisor and expert. We would like to also welcome Mr. Pedro Santos. He's the head of partnerships management in North America, Happy Cities activist, researcher at the PhD researcher in the Catholic University in Portugal, and an ex-representative of the Portuguese Economic Council in New York. Then we have Mr. Khalid bin Rajab from the Tunisian Tourism Ministry. He's also a lecturer about place branding, nation branding, and tourism in general. And we have Mr. Diogo Pesencia, digital marketing manager from the European Travel Commission. And finally, you have me, Tariq Al-Hassan, the director of the Cultural Center. And I would like to again welcome you all and thanking you for your time to start this forum. And I would like to announce initially and extend an invitation for the first international dialogue that will take place to discuss nation branding in Gulf region. And this is actually an idea that Dr. Talal inspired me to have just before we start this session. And we spoke about it since it never existed before. And we would like to create awareness about it. So those of you who are participating here today and would like to take a place, would be a pleasure to have you. And it should take a place on May the 10th. So this is another invitation to benefit from your expert and have you present in the coming dialogue. But first, I would like to start with Dr. Salah. Now, when we talk about countries and nation branding, how would you describe or explain countries benefiting from having a positive nation brand in terms of economic growth? What would be the relationship and how is it relevant?
Oh, there is great relevance between strengthening the nation brand, and I think there is an echo or interference. I think there are a lot of...
If everyone could please mute the microphones, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a direct relationship definitely between strengthening the nation brand and attracting foreign direct investment in terms of economic development, in terms of talent, attraction of talent, in terms of the overarching image of the products and services that are offered by the country. There is definitely, research points that there is a direct relationship between perception of the brand or even the retrospective evaluation of the brand, of the nation brand, and its ability to attract talent, technology, trade, investment. So there is no doubt about that. You know, there is a direct relationship, and there are a lot of cases that we can shed light on, you know, from the region. I'm talking about the Gulf region. There is no doubt that, you know, United Arab Emirates have really entrenched itself in that arena in terms of building a global image of openness, a global image of welcoming others, a global image of trade and investment. I have a lot of experience in with Dubai and the UAE. I used to go there for nearly 10 years annually for missions that relates to nation branding, economic development. You know, we call Dubai the city of cities. You know, I can dive deeper on that, but this is just one case. There are a lot of new emerging cases of successful nation branding from the region. You know, Saudi Arabia definitely is redefining the brand and doing a lot of effort with NEOM and putting forward clean energy as a national priority. So that's a success story right there. Egypt is doing a lot of work in terms of tourism and attracting foreign direct investment and so forth. So the prospects are great for countries that focus on building their nation brand. The prospects are great for economic development.
Thank you.
There's no
Thank
doubt
you.
about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. Just to extend a little bit more about UAE example, from your perspective and from your experience, of course, what did UAE did something different that made it stand out, especially existing in a region that does not enjoy a very positive reputation?
Well, I think one thing that Dubai have done is really draw a line in the sand. And they said, we are going to be number one. No? And they really, that's the vision. That's the leadership vision. So I should really give credit to a visionary leaders that really turned a young country, you know, a very young country around in such a remarkable way. And they said, we are going to defy all odds. They said, we want to be number one in trade. We want to be number one in banking. Amazing, you know, Dubai, DIFC, Dubai International Financial Center, you know, just in quarter of a century became as competitive as London, as competitive as New York, and of course took leadership in the banking industry in the region that used to be in Bahrain as the center of banking a long time ago, and now it is Dubai number one in banking, no question about it. So what they done with the DIFC is rather totally unorthodox, if you will, in the banking business. Banking is more control, and they said we are going to give up the control. DIFC is a Dubai International Financial Center is a free zone. That's why I say Dubai is the city of cities. Dubai is a major hub for free trade, free investment. Javza is another example, the Jabal Ali free trade zone. So a very firm commitment to free zones from financial centers, from trade, from manufacturing. DIFC, for example, what are you concerned about as an investor that you are not going to be able to get your money out, or you are not going to be able to win in, God forbids, courts if it ends up to that. So they said, we are going to put our court system for DIFC separate from our traditional judiciary system in the country. So they established an international court. As a matter of fact, the justice of the court, which is totally unheard of globally, they appointed an international judge from Singapore as the founding judge of the International Court at DIFC. They said that we are going to give trust to the investors that when you come to DIFC and establish a branch or create a hub for your financial activities in the region, that you are safe, secure. And here we have a court system that is an international court system that does not, is not affiliated with the country court system. And as a proof of that, they appointed a renowned judge from Singapore to preside over that. He was the former judge, the inaugural judge in DIFC. So I did visit DIFC so many times, and it is truly amazing. You don't think that you are in the Middle East at all. You are in an international hub, and that's what they created. They created international hub for banking, international hub for trade, international hub for investment. So
Professor,
Dubai is a case in point in that respect. Yeah.
Sorry, just in 2 minutes. How do you, so this is mainly, we're talking about policies of the countries, because as you know, in nation branding, there is a heavy focus either on policies or on communications. Some think that Dubai or UAE became where they are today just because of an advertising, many different advertising campaigns and sponsorship for football teams and Emirates Airlines, and that's what made Emirates the country it is today. But your discussion is focusing really heavily on policies and what they did internally before they communicate externally. Do you think there is a relationship between, a country creating a good policy for it to have a good nation brand and, shine globally?
Yeah, see, nation branding is not just about media. Media is to tell your story, yeah? And it's not either or. I don't think it is either policy or media. Dubai have done it both. Dubai Media City, for example, is a living example of that. So policies set the stage for you to showcase who you are through media. So Dubai is a media hub as well. And all the multinational agencies are located in Dubai Media City, from Leo Burnett, you name it. I don't want to start mentioning names of agencies and neglect others. So there is no question that media is powerful, no question about that, but you have to put your house in order, right?
Yeah.
In order to tell the right story. Yeah. It is not just about media. You are wasting your dollars or your money, yeah? If you think it is how powerful the media is, it is how persuasive the media can be if you have the right story. You have to build your narrative in the right tone, to the right audience, with the right message, and the sky is the limit in where you take it. And they truly are a textbook example when it comes to doing that. They have done it right, and hats off to them. And they are celebrating it, and they prevailed in economic slowdowns. Did they go through tough times? Absolutely. I have seen these tough times in 2008, and I don't want to dive into that, but that shows the resilience of the Dubai experience and the Dubai brand that really went through this unfortunate economic slowdown. It was a global issue, it was not Dubai specific, and everybody thought this is over with Dubai, but Dubai prevailed to showcase that it is not either or, it is not either policy or media. They are both two sides of the same coin when it comes to the nation branding.
Thank you, Professor. I will go all the way to, we will get back to this point to discuss it with Dr. Talal, but I would like to have Mr. Diogo's opinion from the European Travel Commission. Mr. Diogo is the digital marketing manager. Diogo, when we talk about the influence, like Professor Salah said, there is you need to fix the house first and then communicate a specific image. How do you think, from your experience in the digital marketing, the power of social media on nation branding or place branding? And first, what's the importance of the country to fix the country internally with good policies and then communicate the image? And do you think also a second part, digital marketing is the future of nation branding?
So yeah, I would say so, because as Professor Salah was saying, like, it's really important to build the messaging and to really have the clear guidelines of what you want to communicate towards the world. And that was the example of Dubai, and it's also the example of what Europe is trying to achieve for the next years. Because for Dubai, it's easy because they have one identity, they communicate in one way, but when you come to Europe, it's so diverse, and you want to promote it as a pan-European experience, because when you go to Dubai because they have something that makes them special. But when you come to Europe, there are so many things and so many different particularities that you kind of have to promote Europe as a whole instead of just a nation branding that just have one clear guideline. So when it comes to promote Europe, we always try to promote it in the way, because when you come to Europe, you come to see more than one or two countries. You don't come just because you want to see Slovenia or you want to see Portugal. Like, if you have the opportunity, it might take the opportunity that you go to Portugal and Spain because it's just in the same region and you just have the opportunity to do so. And then the second layer of your question is that social media, it actually has, it's kind of like a new global actor that is coming to the conversation, because nowadays you can really see how to influence the decisions of the consumers when they are coming to Europe or when they are coming to Dubai. And you have the example, for example, now of the expo that Dubai is also doing in terms of tourism. And that's like a really smart, clever move, because they basically positionate themselves as the showcasing of the world. So they just invited everyone and all the global players to take part of the conversation. And at the same time, they are triggering and like activating this nation branding part in terms of tourism, because everyone wants to be part of something global, and they create that forum and that space to promote it. And at the same time, they are promoting their country as well, because even people that didn't know so well about Dubai, now they know because they put it themselves in the center of the trend. And that's really an important move. And that's the thing that countries, destinations, continents really need to understand when it comes to nation branding, because how can you activate, for sure, nation branding, it's not just related with tourism, it has another layers, like Professor Salah said, in terms of economy, in terms of cultural events, like we have Eurovision, for example, and now to bring the discussion of the power of Hollywood. And so, like, if you think that Eurovision was a festival that was really well known in terms of European culture, now it even has another layer, because the way that Netflix now commercialize it in a documentary, it also brings another way of promotion to the country. And that can be also related with football. It can be also related with things that kind of promote your country. And at the same time, it makes part of your external action in terms of policy. And so, and it's just magical how everything is combined, and how in the end, it's really and really good to see the final product, I would say.
Being a digital marketing manager in the European Travel Commission, do you see the future of place branding, especially, for tourism or foreign direct investment? Do you think the future of it will be digital media, or will it stay as usual, hosting international events, appearing in a Hollywood movie. Is there a compatibility, or is digital media exceeding the traditional sort of speech media campaigns for nation branding?
No, I would say that you cannot treat it just as one factor. You have to combine both of them, and for sure events will still develop a key role factor in terms of development of nation branding, because it's actually a thing that you can be in place, that you can invite people, and especially now, because after COVID, we can see that people are really eager to meet other people, to be in place, to recover their lives. And for sure, social media really triggered that part, especially during COVID, when people could not do the things that they were used to do, and they only had social media to turn on. But then you still need to take it in terms of combination, because you cannot just say that social media will be the future. For sure it is, and you can see that consumers are more and more searching in social media and in digital media how to plan their trips, how to go here and there. But then there is also this sort of combination that if I'm going to a fair and I actually have the experience of seeing with my eyes what a destination has to offer me, it also has a different storytelling in a different power in terms of consumer decisions, I would say.
Okay, and my last question, briefly, please, Diogo. In terms of advertising, do you think it's more beneficial, for the European Travel Commission, for example, if you guys have a campaign now to promote Europe for summer 2022, would you rely more on digital media or TV advertisements or radio advertisements or newspaper advertisements?
So we will, now we are really shifting to digital. So it was one of our focus, and like Professor Salah, for example, said, because he was the only one that I was taking some notes, it's really important to have this messaging and to know your audience and who do you want to bring and what do you have to offer that other destinations don't, and then explore that part in terms of digital. Because if you offer something to the market that people don't know yet about it, and if you can do it in terms of storytelling and storyline that could be digital and you just engage it, you can actually see that people engage more in terms of digital because they don't have the pressure of seeing TV until the end or seeing an advertisement until the end. But sometimes you are just immersed in digital, in social media, that you actually don't notice what is an advertisement anymore and what is an organic thing. So sometimes it just appears on your algorithm, and that's the magical of it. It's coming with this advertisement that you just make it to sound as much as organic as possible in the way that people can consume it more, and you can have more interactions in terms of how are you impacting your audience, and if it makes sense, and how can you then improve from that advertisement. So it's actually super nice because you know more your audience and you know what do they want, what do they engage more with. And sometimes when you have events and when you have this kind of conference, you don't know if your communication message is really passed out that clearly. Yeah. But with advertisement, you can actually see if it is or not, because you have, in terms of engagement levels, the reflection if it's impacting your audience or not. So that's, I would say that definitely it's advertisement, and it will be the future, but still combined with the other sources that we already have in place.
That's a very interesting point to mention, the measurement of engagement. Thank you, Diogo. I will go back to Dr. Talal. Dr. Talal, how do you think countries are, listening to Professor Salah and Mr. Diogo, how do you think countries can benefit from having a positive nation brand? Again, if you want to cover the Emirati example, and also tell me a little bit more about the Saudi attempt, the current attempt to do nation branding.
Yeah, first I'd like to thank you, Tariq, and thank Professor Salah and Diego I think they are more expert than me, so I have learned a lot of them from what they have said. Because I think they have covered a lot of things, and both of them, they were repeating Dubai, not United Arab Emirates, and I would like to highlight this a little bit. When you go back, for example, in the 80s, I think the only country in that time where like more focus on our GCC region, it was Kuwait. So Kuwait, they were very good on positioning the country, especially when it comes to cultures and the movies and other things. And even though Saudi was like one of the biggest in size in that time in United Arab Emirates, I think until that time, nobody knows about, for example, any clear vision other than the oil in the country, even as like any achievements, even in sports and others, they were not there until after the Gulf War, when Kuwait was, maybe they are busy with their political things inside. So we have seen the booming of Dubai. And I think as Professor Salah said, is talking about the visionary person who was taking Dubai from nowhere to be the story of the world. And I can't say that it was the story. I have lived in the United States for 10 years and 16 years in the UK, and everybody is talking, even the young generation, talking about spending like a weekend or even the spring break, for example, in Dubai. So to be honest with you, just for these points, I think Dubai was the big name, but not United Arab Emirates, even when Abu Dhabi comes in and they have Al-Ittihad. So that could be a mistake. I thought it could be, going back to your questions, I think Saudi Arabia have, with the changes they have done, and also the launching the Vision Saudi 2030, they focused more on building a nation, a strong nation brand, telling the story with a massive global communications. It comes as a boom, engaging the young generation within Saudi Arabia. And I think within now 3 years or 4 years, they are starting focusing on the place marketing or the city marketing. So it comes like building and taking advantage of the history of Saudi Arabia. If you see, even Saudi Arabia now focusing more about the establishment date, and they were launching that as like a history, focusing more on the civilizations of the history of Saudi Arabia, and talking more about the cultures, the multicultures within Saudi Arabia. And if you also notice what the Saudis, they have done, they are launching initiatives that satisfy and communicate with the young generation in Saudi Arabia as well as globally. So they are focusing in making a buzz and generating a global communications, meeting the sustainable goals of the United Nations. So I think that makes even the young generation globally talks about, for example, the policy in Saudi Arabia, the changes, and how Saudi is meeting their interests as well globally. So when it comes, for example, to Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is like, with all the changes, I think they have different parallel lines. They are focusing more in cultures. And when it comes to the cultures, as you can see, they have, I think, 11 commissions under the culture, the Ministry of Cultures, focusing on the fashions. And the fashions, that is like a complete industry. And they want to integrate fashions with all the arts, with the global movies, with the global, even the esports. So they're integrating the Saudi art cultures or the fashions in a lot of things. When it comes to the music, the global movies, if you know that there is a global movie now, it's called Gandahar, is being launched or being filmed in Al-Ula. So they are taking Saudi as basis and focusing more within the like initiatives that meeting the needs of globally. So for example, if you take some of the giga projects like the Red Sea projects, the NEOM, as Professor Salah said, focusing more of preserving the environment, making it as with the renewable energy, and also the green Saudi, green Middle East. So all of that is being bringing a lot of global attentions to Saudi Arabia as a country that is moving and taking advantage of its power. Just other things also, like we always talk even in marketing, like location, location, location. So location always give you a positive advantage, even if you have like a bad products or a bad services. And also it gives you like a very positive advantage when you have a good story, as Professor Salah said, like if you have the right story to share with the globally, so that will make it as a confirmed story with expectation confirmation theory. People then they will know and understand and they will talk more about the country. So when, as you said in your questions about how Saudi is benefiting from the nation branding, that will make people try to look more about Saudi, read more about Saudi, read and confirm if the story Saudi is telling about the civilization, is it true or not? And then Saudi have taken a massive changes that even as a Saudis, we could not expect, which is, as Professor Salah said, about changing the policies. Saudi is moving toward digitizations where all the policies being changed, any stereotype that being considered about Saudi, about the hypocrisy, about the corruptions being wiped. So that will make people come to Saudi. We are not a conservative country. So they can say we cannot visit Saudi. No, now you can come and take the visa from the airport with a certain conditions. So whatever nations, whatever religion, there is no any restrictions for them. So when they come, after they already read and they have listened to the stories, my brother is working with like taking as a mentors, taking foreigners to discover Saudi. And he's taking a lot of groups, hundreds and hundreds coming from Germany, from Italy. And when they come and arrive, they already have questions where they want to go. So they do not waiting you to take them to a certain areas. They say, we want to go to the central of Jeddah, for example, to visit so and so, and would like to see that mosque or that building or whatever stories. When they go Al-Ula, already they have done their homework. So they confirm the stories being told by the Saudis. And when they come, they want to go and visit those things. So that, I think, is a very good thing when it comes to the expectation confirmation theory. So we are raising the bar, telling them a lot of good stories. When they come, they will find all of those is being confirmed. If we go just like the last week, how a lot of global talks being about Saudi. Saudi qualified just in a few days, qualified to the World Cup for the 6th time. In the same day, they won the Dubai biggest horsing prize in Dubai, won by Saudi. In the same time, also we hosted the Formula One for the 2nd time. Even myself, I was in the first Formula and the 2nd Formula. There was like, if I say not 360 degree change, but even 1,000 of degrees change between the two. And it comes the number of people, the activities, the infrastructures, the nice experience for the people. So it was like a boom change on that event. In the same, we finished the 27th or the Formula One. The 27th, there is a launch of one of the biggest entrepreneurship forum, which I am now in Riyadh. So more than 200 countries participating. I just met people from Greece, from Germany, from other countries. Most of them the first time to come to Saudi. So they say, we have a stereotype, yes, but we have a lot of opportunities we know about Saudi. When they come, they say, this is our dream. Everybody is exchanging business cards and they change, like they build their networks because they feel the country has the elements of the soft power, the power of building. Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Talal, when you're talking about the opportunities, you're talking about financial and business opportunities, right?
Yes, when it comes, for example, with the nation branding, when we build our story and we talk about our stories and people, they see it as an opportunities. We have the Giga projects, so that will bring, as Professor Salah says, the foreign investors for the Giga projects. I'm not sure if you are following, but if you follow what the ambassador of France, the ambassador of United States, the ambassador of Germany, the ambassador of the United Kingdom, the ambassador of Japan and China, I think they are making a local competitions, how they are integrating with the communities and also penetrating their soft powers through winning giga projects inside Saudi. So when it comes to health sectors, entertainment, sports, so they are competing in taking a giga project. So that will bring the international foreign investors. But in the same time, as you said about the place marketing, Riyadh is being now promoted as the global hub for youth, for the entrepreneurship, building the biggest e-gaming and e-sports hub. It will be, as you can say, like generating a new industry when it comes to the storytelling, the publications, building all the e-games from Riyadh. So now Riyadh being like in a daily basis, you cannot cope with how many events taking place in all the industries. If you are talking about health, you can find an event today to go to the health, for example. If you are talking about sports, there is an innovation programs running at 4 o'clock today. If you are talking about for example, entrepreneurs are making like a lot of signing agreements or getting a seed funds or pre-seed funds, or even as an accelerators with the MISC foundations and the 500 startups is taking place here. So when you meet those guys and they are happy to come and say the Saudis is a welcoming country, a lot of opportunities, all what we have as a stereotypes is not being there, and they found it like easy, safe, country. I think that's what we need now. When they go back to their countries, I think they are going to tell all of those good stories. So they use the international media in the right way. They have changed the policy and procedures, and at the same time open the countries for the good word of mouth for those people when they go back with this nice journey.
Thank you, Dr. Talal, for the enthusiasm and for sharing a lot of wonderful information. I think there is something to add about this point, which is Saudi Arabia winning the best booth in Expo 2020.
I think three awards. I think the both the best experience, or they have won three awards. Yeah.
So that also
and
is
by the way, and also they are campaigning now for having Expo 2030 in Saudi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the campaign started today. Yeah.
Well, this is really interesting. I would like to go to Mr. Khaled bin Rajab from the Tunisian Ministry of Tourism. And Mr. bin Rajab is also a consultant and an expert in nation branding. So far with what our guests have shared, if I want to ask you a question, is nation branding an advertising campaign or internal policy by the country? What would you say?
Well, thank you, dear Tarek, for the invitation. I'm really glad to be with you today to discuss this theme is nation branding in general, and more specifically, if nation branding is an advertising campaign or internal policy. I would like to start with a short, funny story about a movie called Borat. I don't know if you've heard about this movie, Borat. It was released in 2006, starring by a British actor. He's a pretty famous one. It's called Sacha Baron Cohen. And they released the second part of the same movie, Borat. It's in 2020. And it's this movie, it talks about a journalist from Kazakhstan who was appointed by the Ministry of Information to go to the USA to make a kind of documentary about the culture in USA. And the movie was a success, really a success. But it was a total car crash for the branding of the country Kazakhstan.
Wow.
Because in that movie, the movie has portrayed the country, Kazakhstan, as an extremely poor country, as anti-Semitic and racist country. So the government, they built on the success of that movie to improve the image or the nation branding of their country by appointing a PR, public relations agency, to improve their national image. So the PR video adopts an expression used very often in the movie its expression says very nice. So they used that expression in the movie, in the PR campaign, and it was a success. So this story leads us to think, what is advertising? Is nation branding? Because the story here combines the nation branding and PR, or the advertising campaign, which leads us, as I said, what is advertising? Advertising is a marketing tool or tactic that we pay for space to promote or to send a message about our product or about our brand. So the goal is to reach people who are willing to pay for the company product or service in general. And the nation branding, from the other hand, it's the nation branding is a tactic in general, which uses sorry, the tools of branding to alter or to change the behavior or attitude towards a brand in a positive way. So the nation branding, the main objective of nation branding is to attract tourists, to encourage investment, boost exports, attract students to come and to study in the country. So generally speaking, the image, the whole image of the country, generally speaking, covers three pillars. It covers the economic pillar, it covers the cultural pillar, and it covers the cultural, economic, and political pillar. So if we talk about the economic pillar, it is the branding predominantly is a strategic tool to countries' competitive advantage. So we inform about the competitiveness of the country. From the political perspective, nation branding it's a government effort. It's a joint government effort to manage the country image in order to promote tourism, investment, or foreign relations. The cultural perspective, it is about branding and managing reputation by promoting a country, culture, history, and geography. So to sum up now, the nation branding is considered as a component of national policy, as a part of campaign that is not separate from planning, from governance or economic development. It's as a whole. So we can use, for nation branding, we can use advertising technique to improve one of this pillar all together. So nation branding can be directed at a national level or international level. If you allow me, Tarek, to talk about nation branding from tourism perspective. Like for in Tunisia here, the main pillar for our nation branding is tourism branding. So it takes the role of nation branding as much as possible. So it shows, it promotes infrastructure, services, heritage, environment as elements to promote our image through tourism. So which is a good step, which is a good strategy to embrace all these elements, especially for those countries who do not have a nation brand policy.
Thank you, Mr. بالرجب, for your input. I'd like to actually go back to Professor Salah before we have this discussion with Mr. Santos. Professor Salah, do you think a country can use nation branding as a communication strategy in our globalized, digitalized world?
Actually, let me interject here and say that traditional advertising is a thing of the past now. We are really talking about integrated brand communications that let's not underestimate the power of social and digital media in that respect. So yes, advertising is very important, but as a component of a seamless, integrated brand communication campaign. No? Let me also emphasize one other point, is brand strategy and brand management from a nation branding perspective is the oversight of a government agency, or is it the oversight of the private sector, or is it both, or none? No? Or none. No? As a matter of fact, you would be surprised. One of the largest and most influential country brands in the world had never had a nation branding board, and that is the US. Until recently, yeah. We find that there are different models, okay? Australian model is very much, and the US model right now is very much private sector led, okay? So government totally hands off. That's one model. The other model is Mexico, for example, and I've done some work with the Mexican board in that it is totally under the wing, not the government, but the president. So the president is the face of the brand, okay? So that is a very strong government controlled. Then we get into the South African model, which is a hybrid. A bit of government, a bit of private sector. And I think it is true in Dubai, that from my experience, there is a lot of private sector initiatives and engagements right there. So the thing is, the worst scenario is not to have a nation branding board. If you don't have a nation branding board, then it's all over the place. And there are a lot of countries that are cut in the middle. You know, they think nation branding is just being a publicist for government. That's not gonna be sustainable, to be honest with you. The most sustainable way is more of a hybrid model where, you know, there is a voice of the government, but it is not the only voice. You know, there got to be a very heavy involvement of the private sector as well, to make it more sustainable in that respect. So back to your question, you know, is advertising, is it when it comes to nation branding? I say advertising is part of your tools, of your communication tools, you know. There are so many communication tools. Influencers now play a big role, And I know that there are some countries like Egypt is leveraging that and aligning that with attracting them for visiting destinations like Hurghada, like Sharm, like Luxor. And what something else is Egypt doing, which is amazing, is the parades. Parades are not new to the nation brand. We have seen parades. The most historic traditional parade is the Thanksgiving parade by Macy's. It's totally managed by Macy's, a retail store in New York, and people around the world wait for it from year to year. I'm not saying the Egyptian model is similar to Macy's. I'm saying parades in general, whether they are shopping parades, cultural parades, historic parades. The pavilions model is also a very successful one. And of course, the pavilion showcase campaign by Mexico. If you can't go to Mexico, Mexico comes to you. And they toured major cities in Europe, and the objective was to promote Europeans, tourism destination to Mexico. And interestingly, it increased tourist arrivals to Mexico by 20%. Wow. The pavilion, the traveling pavilion. Very successful, amazing success story in that. So the experience in Dubai is definitely a successful one for the world event taking place in 2020, and unfortunately was postponed by 1 year due to the pandemic. Really, this is bad luck, but how amazing Dubai have once again prevailed through that in such a successful way. Very impressive country pavilions showcased that really tells the stories about these countries, but most importantly, really showcases how tolerant Dubai is, how global Dubai is. So hats off to Dubai and really doing an amazing job, and during still a pandemic in progress, but they managed to put things under control right there. So it is not just about advertising. Advertising is just a communication tool. We got to think about integrated nation brand communications, and there are lots of effective tools in telling your story, your nation brand story.
Thank you, Professor Salah. Dr. John, welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'll get back to you in a second. I just need to ask Mr. Santos, Pedro, is nation branding an advertising campaign or internal policy system?
Well, after learning and listening all my panel colleagues, I'm happy we all speak the same language, and it's a big good thing because give us the chance to grow and see and oversees how digital marketing or city branding or place spending, there's a discussion about that, as we know, is involving all of us. And when I say all of us, I integrate here the nationals of the country. Today, the nationals of the country are a really very important aspect for city branding. Portugal just actually have that paradigm change recently when we start seeing ourselves as actors of our own marketing, very successful marketing campaigns we've been doing the last years. And that was a little shocking because we knew that we have good jewelries to show in terms of tourism, but we're not aware of that. And that process is very, very important to the success of a successful branding or national branding story. This is one aspect that I'd like to add, because it's hard to add new topics after all these interventions. Another aspect that is very clear for all of us about city branding is the increase of digital literacy in this field. Okay, the impact of digital, it's well known for all of us, and it's maybe the critical success factor of this area of knowledge. I did in 2019 a thesis on marketing of cities and municipalities. Was not a matter that was really very much studied, maybe in a geographic perspective, maybe in economic perspective, but not so much in the humanistic perspective of that field of knowledge. And actually, one of the conclusions about city marketing was two aspects that I like to underline here. One is more than an aesthetic attribute. The way we use the platform, the digital platform, is much more than that. At the time, it was not so clear, that conclusion. And another attribute that already actually was named here, it's also a very important factor for the development of policies for the territories. Also, to bring to this dynamic the citizenship. And saying that, bringing the citizenship, we also bring the social and the business entrepreneurship. And as a very interesting conclusion from that thesis made was the correlation and the integration of colleges, universities, entrepreneurs, and the municipalities are the key aspects for a successful place branding strategy. Then, after that conclusion, I was really very, very curious and look around and see all the different aspects already. Some countries were already here, a good example. How also, at the perspective of today about place branding or city marketing, as I call it in my thesis, is the importance of bringing the issue of circular economy in this aspect of placing branding, and also to understand who are the key clusters of the development and who are today the city stakeholders. Because today the municipality and the city on the place branding is in a completely different level that it was 5 years ago, and will be, and I'm actually more based on the European standards, will be much more in the next years, because regions and cities are becoming the main actors of economy and of circular economy. Saying this, I think today the reality of digital cities has many dynamics as a high-tech innovator. It's true, but it's also an aggregator of humanization. Includes more and more people. More people feel appealed to be part of that campaign, of that strategy, of that cluster, because it's also associated with innovation, high-tech, technology, and all the organizations are welcome. No one stays out. And that's, I think, a good opportunity for all of us. Today, I'm working in a PhD thesis that is bringing that together with a twist. That is the twist that was already discussed here, that is mediatization, okay? And the aspect that I didn't study some years ago is now the focus of my analysis on regions and cities. And mediatization is a very important factor because we don't tell stories, we live stories. And if we are real in what we want to say, in the message that we want to share, we will be very successful, because in the end, all humans, we want to know about other human stories, they want to know other human fragilities and other people good and strong points. Then, just to resume my small schematic presentation, I think we all have a lot of work to do here. It's a good note. I think this dynamic of understanding place branding or city marketing as a collaborative work, a digital and non-digital collaborative work, where all are welcome, and agenda setting, activism, city marketing, mediatization, regions, agenda are key passwords to be successful on this. Can be in the academic perspective, that's the path I'm working now, can be as any organization, can be political, can be governmental, non-governmental. I think a good thing is a very, very integrative area of knowledge and action, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santos. And before we conclude, I'm happy to see Professor John Hayes joining us. I think we had just a miscommunication with time difference, wasn't it?
I thought this started about 2 minutes ago. 10 a.m. New York time is supposed to be the time to start, and so I'm sorry.
That's all right. Dr. Hayes, I would like to ask you, so we can, wrap up this discussion with you. I know that, first of all, those of you who don't know Dr. John Hayes is a professor in Palm Beach Atlantic University. He's an advisor, an expert, and a consultant for governments and private sector in different parts of the world. I have worked previously with Professor John on a project for the US government in Kuwait. And it's a great pleasure to have you today, Professor. From your experience, maybe living abroad in different regions and teaching in different regions and working in the field of business management, advertising, and marketing, how do you think countries that already have built manage to build, or somehow the brand is communicative in a negative way? How do you think, what's their chances and the tools that they should do to communicate a better brand globally?
Well, it's very much an internal decision. And I did spend 7 years living in Kuwait and had the advantage of being able to teach and to travel extensively, particularly in the Middle East. But I've also traveled through Europe and other places of the world related to work, mostly related to franchising and the expansion of franchising. So I've had the opportunity to meet with governments and see experiences on the ground, so to speak, in various places. Earlier, my colleague talking about Dubai. So I've been there many times and have appreciated, in Abu Dhabi even more so, and have appreciated there they have made the conscious internal decisions to be something bigger and better to the world, to the image of the world. Keeping in mind that we can't always control these things, no matter what we do. America is a good example. The Thanksgiving parade, I hadn't thought of it culturally before, but that is a good example of our branding of this country. But then I think it was Sunday night, one actor walked up on stage during the Academy Awards and slapped another, the comedian. This does not speak well for America. So there are things that happen that are just uncontrollable, while the internal decision is we want to behave ourselves and pattern ourselves in a way and demonstrate to other countries what we represent and who we are and what we are. Not everybody always agrees, or passion of the moment, things happen. That certainly happened that way when I was living in Kuwait, where there is a decision, there is a desire to be greater, and all those all the American franchises in Kuwait are a good example of how they emulate and how they want people. When I was first asked to go to Kuwait, and I'd never been there, and my answer to the interviewer was, I doubt that my wife would be comfortable in Kuwait. And their answer was, Kuwait is very much like America. And having lived there for 7 years, that's a little funny, but at the same time, I knew what they meant, that there are things about the culture that are accommodating even to Westerners to come and live there and to be comfortable there. Certainly, that's true. And part of that is the food, and part of that is behavioral. Part of that is, of course, the advertising that's done. But it has to begin internally with decisions by governments or countries that they want to project themselves differently. And that doesn't happen everywhere, as we know. And some want to project themselves aggressively, as we see more often today. So it begins with the internal decision.
So it's an internal policy and it's internal decision in a country to be represented in a particular positive way, and then the communications part comes next, right?
Yeah, it's the internal policy that determines, well, where are we going to spend our money? And what kinds of programs are we going to organize and project to not only within our nation, but internationally as well. Advertising has to be driven by that internal policy. And yet, as was said earlier, advertising is like social media. These are merely tools that we use. And sometimes we can't control them because you can't control social media. You can control your advertising message to an extent, but you can't control what's going to happen on social media. You put your message out there and somebody else wants to deny it or wants to take it away.
Right. Right. So I think I want to first thank you all for being here and sharing the experiences. And I think, like Pedro said, I'm really glad that all of us are speaking the same language of highlighting both. And just also like Professor Salah said, it's multiple pillars. It's not just either policies or communications. It's I think a combination that would help to build. And also what was interesting was the highlight and the emphasis on perhaps social and international events taking place in a country and creating an influence in reshaping and growing the brand. I would like to thank you all for your time and for being here and for sharing your experience. It's been a pleasure to have you as an International Center for Culture and Innovation, and we will definitely look forward to have you in future events and perhaps share with the world more about your experiences and inputs in nation branding.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Tariq, and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Salah. Bye-bye.
Bye.